Emotions are like the fascia of humanity. They're the connective tissue that pull us together, right? They create relationships, and they push relationships apart, and they create babies, and they create peace, and they also create war. They're the push-pull of our humanity. They're our social evolution. And now we have this neocortex, our mind, that is this incredible storyteller, which is the most powerful thing on the planet. But it most of the time will mirror the felt sensation in our body, because we're bottom-up beings first. And so a lot of the times we have to work with the body first to have clarity of the mind.
We're back, baby, with a brand new season of the It's Fucking Spiritual podcast. Join us each week as we have unfiltered conversations about how to transform your life. Our mission is to usher in a new era of spirituality, where you don't have to be all love and light to live a life of alignment. Here, we honor all of it, the profound and the profane, the magic and the messy, and all things that make you human. So let's discuss the truth behind transformation and be unapologetic in our evolution. From manifestation to money, embodiment to energy, and all taboo topics, nothing is going to be off limits. Are you ready to live a life that feels just as good as it looks? Let's get fucking spiritual. Hey, what's up, my friends? Welcome back to another episode of the It's Fucking Spiritual podcast. I am so excited for this episode today because the person that we have here that I'm going to be interviewing, his work, his body of work has completely changed my life and my business. He is the creator of Somatic Breathwork, which is a worldwide breathwork practitioner training company. And 2.5 years ago, he personally trained me to become a breathwork practitioner. And as you guys know, nervous system regulation, somatic work has been the game changer in my life. So I'm really excited to have him here today to just tell us all about the science behind it. And I have no doubt that it is going to probably click in a lot of pieces for you, because learning from him helped click in a lot of pieces for me. So Steven Jaggers, welcome to the show.
No, thank you so much, Rachel. That's an honor. I'm excited to dive in with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to just have you here. Just from the training a couple years ago, all of the things that you were saying were things that I felt to my core, that I already knew intuitively, but you have such a beautiful way of filling in the gaps from the understanding, the intellectual, what you can feel in your body. And it honestly was a huge part of my healing journey. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I spent a lot of my life, studying so many different things.
Yeah.
And almost alienating myself because I went so deep into different things
I
that
get
it's
that.
like I would speak about it and I'd use all this jargon from like the Western anatomy and kinesiology side of things, and then the esoteric energetic side of things. And really, when I was in the depths of those and speaking about it, no one could understand it, right? So it's been this process of distilling it. How do I make it simple, accessible for like the general population? So I've been obsessed with like taking these complex ideas and just distilling it in the best way possible.
Well, you've done an incredible job. And that's something that I stand for so much on this podcast, is taking these really esoteric concepts or just things that are either really woo or hard to understand, and bringing them down and giving them a scientific explanation, because that's been something that's been really helpful for me. And I know you're big on blending like Eastern and Western, and just really being the bridge and a translator is something that I'm huge, that I stand for here on the podcast. So thank you for also doing that.
Of course.
And I would love for us to start, and for the listeners to just get to hear a little bit about your story and what got you into breathwork and just kind of the evolution for you personally.
Yeah, it's been a journey. I was an only child. My parents were addicted to a lot of drugs, hard drugs, especially when I was young. I was born, my parents were addicted to meth and a multitude of different things. And so, I didn't really understand what was going on. And, when I was about 5, I think they went to rehab and started a new life and got clean, and still struggled with a lot of, call it anxiety and depression. And as a child, you're so sensitive, and you're co-regulating to them. Like, you are so sensitive, you are picking up on everything that your parents are feeling as if it's your own.
Yeah.
And I could tell that something was off. And so I watched them kind of switch to prescription medications, the whole Western, process of mental health. And I watched them cycle through multiple different types of prescription medications and, asked them like, can you just come outside and play with me? Can you just come to my sports game? Can you just come meet other parents of my friends, right? And not really understanding why they were struggling with that. And so there was a deep desire in me probably to fix it, which we could talk about that. And I always played, I loved playing sports. I loved being in my body. I was an amateur skateboarder. I played basketball, baseball, all the different stuff. I was always the kid running outside all over the place. And it took me a while to really understand why, and I figured it out. It's like when you're in your body, you're not thinking about what's going on at home. You're not thinking about the past. You're not thinking about the future. You are forced to be like in yourself right then and right there. And so fast forward outside of high school, I originally wanted to study addiction psychology, probably because I wanted to fix my parents. And then we got into like the DSM-4 at the time and categorizing people. And I was like, oh, this does not feel right in my body. I swung the pendulum to the other side and wanted to study physical therapy and just understand the body. And they look at the body as very mechanical. It's like the emotions and the mind are not even connected inside of that. And so that didn't feel right as well. And I ended up dropping out of college and tried to figure out what I wanted to do. And at the time I was smoking a lot of cannabis. I was probably self-medicating a lot. And it also helped me in a lot of ways because I was like, if this is illegal, then what else are they hiding from us?
Yeah,
right?
totally.
We
could go down a rabbit hole.
It made me start to question things. But I ended up stopping, and I had this moment of, you could call it a spiritual awakening. But when you stop smoking weed, you have what's called REM reuptake. And I started having wild lucid dreams. And then I started researching it and got into astral projection and lucid dreaming and altered states of consciousness and your energy body. And so it just opened up this world for me that I was like, holy shit, we got to go down this rabbit hole. I started going down that rabbit hole, and I found a holistic school in Arizona that taught body work, lots of different forms of body work, from just massage therapy to cranial sacral therapy and polarity therapy and a lot of somatic based body works. And I walked into the school and my body just said, yes, let's do this.
Briefly interrupting this episode to invite you into Expand, my 6-week somatic embodiment course. If you've resonated with what we've talked about on the podcast and you're ready to begin actually applying these tools to your life and seeing transformation, this course is for you. Especially if you've ever felt like you've done so much work on yourself, you are incredibly self-aware, you know your limiting beliefs, you know your stories from childhood, and yet you are still stuck in cycles of self-sabotage. The tools inside of Expand will help you finally break free from your limiting patterns, your limiting beliefs, and actually reprogram your nervous system and your body to finally be able to show up more grounded, free, and confident in your life. And if you listen to the podcast, you know root cause healing doesn't actually start by changing your thoughts or limiting beliefs. It starts by shifting the state of your body. Throughout this course, you'll be learning my signature 6-step process that will help you expand your nervous system capacity, heal your inner child, and rise into the person you're actually meant to become so you can finally feel the freedom and create the success that you actually desire. Each week, you'll receive a teaching module, practical steps, and daily tools and practices to incorporate into your routine that will radically shift your life. We've also got a live component where you'll be able to be coached directly by me over 2 live sessions, and recordings will be available if you can't make it live. We begin April 21st, and we've got a special discount code for you as a podcast listener. Go to rachelgibler.com/expand or the link in the show notes to sign up and use the code podcast at checkout for $200 off. We've got payment plans as low as $50 a month to make it accessible for you to join no matter your financial circumstance. And I am so standing for you to give yourself these tools to create a massively successful and abundant life and the ability to move through your life with grace and ease. Email support@rachelgibler.com with any questions. We begin April 21st, and we would love to have you. Now back to the episode.
And so I fell in love with it. As soon as I got my hands on someone's body, all of the things that I were learning started to make sense. Not to my mind, it started to make sense in my body. Because, I'm an experiential learner. Like I need to know the why behind it.
Yeah.
And I think most of us are. And if you struggle with schooling, it's probably because you need to have the experience of it.
Yeah.
And so I became an assistant instructor. My instructors loved me. I just couldn't stop learning. And then, they left. I became a teacher there. I taught a multitude of different classes, and, I thought I would do body work for the rest of my life. And that's what I loved. I ran an injury rehab center. And then I also, was doing like a lot of the energetic and spiritual work on the side with people. And through that process, I found, I had a friend who, said, you need to try psychedelics. And I'm like, oh, okay, and so I started doing a couple just very recreational psychedelic journeys, and I was like, this was very powerful, but it also feels like something that could be abused.
Yeah.
Like who's actually doing this in the right way? And I found MAPS, which is Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, volunteered for them, got there at the MAPS psychedelic conference, got to see Gabor Mate speak, a multitude of other speakers in that realm. And I had a friend say, you need to go do this breathwork session by a man named Stan Groff. And I'm like, cool, breathwork, is it going to be as powerful as a psychedelic journey? I doubt it, right?
Famous last words.
Yeah, and then I went to this, holotropic breathwork session by the man who created most of these deeper breathwork journey modalities. They kind of all stem from holotropic, which we can get into. But I had more physical release in my body from that session than I had from any body work, therapy, acupuncture, coaching, EMDR. In that session, I'm just laying on the ground breathing. And through that process, I felt this, about 15 minutes in, I felt this pop in my thoracic spine, like right in my kind of solar plexus area, if you could say your fire chakra, if that's your language. I felt this pop, and I've had a little bit of scoliosis in my thoracic spine, in my fire center. My parents were addicted to stimulants. Like that's the stimulants are a false sense of fire. And so I think that's kind of the ancestral thing that was passed down. But I immediately was flooded with so much anger.
Wow.
So much anger that I had never let myself feel. Once that anger processed through me, I realized that I was really sad. Like I wasn't just angry. I was like, all I wanted was just love,
Yeah.
And then underneath that, there was a feeling of like, why was I so hard on my parents? Because they were just doing the best that they could. Then there was like this happiness and joy of forgiveness. And I kind of went through a washing of my full emotional spectrum during that moment. And as I let that through me, it was this clearing to become clear almost. Like I became clear in that moment. I've been studying all these different breathwork modalities or body work modalities. And I'm always attuning to someone's breath. Like if someone's holding their breath when I'm working on them, it's not beneficial because they're defending me, or they're defending against me. And so I started studying and looking at all the different bodies and there's so many different types of breath work, and there's a lot of dogma in them, but they're all good for different things. And so fast forward, I started applying breath work to a lot of the other modalities that I was utilizing with my clients, and people started having really powerful experiences. And it fit in perfectly to all the other stuff that I was trained in. And I had a woman who was a therapist who was like, hey, can you teach me what you're doing with me? I would love to learn. And that light bulb came on inside of me. It was that, I've heard it spoken to as like that, the Da Vinci effect, where it's like that moment in time where you have the realization of all of the places and spaces that you've spent learning different things, where they all connect and integrate, and that you're able to throw your own sort of, it's the process of innovation, right? Yeah. And so I had that moment of like, let me take all of the things, distill it, put it in and package it up so I can teach another person, because I actually like teaching more than I like doing anything else. And so started with 5 people in my living room in my apartment.
Wow.
And then, 3 of those. Then Fisher, my co-founder, came on, and he helped me create a lot of the back end stuff. And now we're over 2,000 practitioners worldwide and fully accredited by a university to offer college level credit and continuing education for doctors and people with PhDs. And I don't even have a college degree. Yeah. So just letting you know, like, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Yeah. I'm sorry if I'm not allowed to cuss.
But, it's fucking spiritual. You're totally safe.
It says it right here.
Yeah. Wow, that's huge. That's amazing. And I'm just so appreciative of you saying yes, because it's changed my life personally. I mean, I'm one of the practitioners of the 2000, and it's just really cool to see where you guys have taken it, you and Fish, knowing Fish personally as well. You guys are awesome. And I'm so big on, and I said this even in the training, like, the people that I learn from having a depth of integrity. And I feel that from you both, and the way that you've built the company. And I'm such a stand for what you do. So I'm excited to see where you guys take it. And it's such a journey.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you've represented us so well, and you've taken it out to so many people. Yeah. Truly.
Yeah. It's been life-changing for me, and has totally reinformed how I coach, how I facilitate, what I do at my retreats, and the women that get to experience it. I swear my favorite thing to do is the breath work when we're at retreats, because the transformation that I get to see in these women is so phenomenal. And I would love to hear a little bit about just kind of like bridging the gap in the science of what can happen inside of a breathwork session, because somebody that's listening to this who might not know much about it, I think some people fear it. I think people, and what I hear a lot of times too, is people are afraid to unlock the feeling, because they're afraid that if they feel it, they're going to feel it forever. And what I tell them is, like, it's actually the opposite, right? When our emotions aren't felt, they're actually stuck in the body. And I've been on my healing journey for almost 8 years now. And the last 2 years have been exponential in what I've been able to hold, what I've been able to create, what I've been able to move through my body, my capacity. And it started with this work. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, if somebody's just never done this before, like, how can this help them? How can this benefit them to, like, actually start to feel maybe what they haven't felt?
Yeah. There's so many routes that we could go down. I'll just give an example. Like, no one is exempt from this. Like, we are feeling creatures. We are emotional beings. And, I've been struggling lately with, like, clarity, making decisions, and, like, not being very decisive. And I'm sitting there like, why am I struggling with this? And 2 nights ago, I had I had a powerful reflection from a friend, but I actually just sat down and gave myself a session, and, like, cried, yelled, screamed, got really angry, and then afterwards, like, that clarity is there. Yeah. And so one aspect of this is, if you are struggling with clarity, it's not because you're not able to make, like, a clear mental decisions. Actually, our best decisions are made emotionally. And not in the way that you think. Our best decisions are made emotionally because you need to identify which emotions you are suppressing, because those are the things that are blocking your clarity, right? We're not able to see clearly if we're avoiding a certain emotion, because then we're making decisions based off of, I don't want to feel fear, or I don't want to feel sadness, or I don't want to feel anger. But what I tell people, and it's so interesting, because a lot of us are not afraid to take medications, or, like, take a psychedelic, where there's so many different variables inside of that, versus sitting down for an hour with yourself and breathing. Yeah. If you're afraid of sitting with yourself and breathing, then you're actually afraid of your life, because life is measured by breath. We all took our first, and eventually we'll all take our last, and everything in between that is our life. And so the beautiful thing about breath work too is that, at one point in my life, I thought I was going to be a psychedelic therapist. I was going to go back to school, because I was like, everyone needs this. And anybody that says that something is for everyone, I think you should go the opposite direction.
All the time. Or if someone tells you they have the answers fully.
There is no panacea, unfortunately. But, breathwork's powerful because there's nothing else in there. there's no other agenda. Anytime you ingest anything, or even anytime you know, are listening to another person, there's always other agenda there versus you sitting with yourself for an hour with your own breath. And I love to use the etymology of words, your own respiration. To respire is to respirit. Anything that's coming up for you in that session is from your own spirit. There's no middleman.
Yeah.
It's you. And so you are respiring every breath that you take to breathe your spirit, life force energy back into your body so you can show up right here, right now, not later.
Yeah.
And, you know, we could go over the process of somatic breathwork because it does follow a framework. Like, and it's so important to follow that framework because there's different types of breathwork and they're all good for different things. But the beginning of a somatic breathwork session, we're actually mimicking a stress response. And a lot of people don't realize that, and that's why it's so important to see a trained facilitator because you're mimicking a trauma response in your body. And in a safe container, what's happening is you don't have to go back into your mind and relive the story and bring up the memory and everything because you can, in a safe space, take the body, take your physiology into a state of stress. And what that does is that will often bring up a lot of the undigested emotions, a lot of the undigested physical processes that your body needed to do in the moment of a stressor, but it never had the opportunity to do so. Like what your body is craving more than anything, it's not craving to be fixed, it's craving to complete, to have a completion. And in a healthy person, emotions, and this is backed by a ton of research, in a healthy individual, emotions take about 90 seconds to move through you.
So wild.
And some people, it might take 20 years. Some people, it might take 30 years.
Well, and that's when you're not feeling it.
When
right?
you're not feeling it.
Yeah.
And there's, I like to say, there's no such thing as an angry person. There's only a person that hasn't let themselves feel anger. Because when, like, we can take, for example, anger, when it's stuck in the body, I have so many people come to me when we go through different processes and they're like, I don't want to feel anger. I'm not an angry person. Like, I'm calm. I'm like, no, you're a human and humans experience anger. And it's probably manifesting in other ways. When anger is stuck in the body, it turns into, like, emotions have to go somewhere. It turns into passive aggression, where that anger is trying to find a way because your body doesn't want to harbor it. It wants to move through you so that you can go back to homeostasis and baseline. And so it'll leak out. It'll find very sneaky ways. And most of the time it leaks out on the people around us and causes a lot of issues. And so that first part, we're mimicking a stress response. We're giving your organism an opportunity to complete the cycle of whatever needed to happen on an emotional level, on a physical level, and maybe there's mental aspects of needing to kind of complete the story in your head as well. And then once your organism has an opportunity to, like, complete that process, well, then the second half is like, now that we've cleared, oftentimes there's this moment of clarity. We couldn't see clearly because we're muddied by the emotions that are stored in us. And then that second half is, let's show the nervous system how it's allowed to go in the stress response. You're allowed to complete that process without putting it on anybody else. And you're safe and you're witnessed by another person. And that's a huge aspect of it as well, which we can dive into. And now let's show the nervous system how to repattern and come back down into a regulated state by firing and wiring elevated emotions. Emotions of joy, of pleasure, of bliss, of strength, of power. And a lot of the times we block ourselves from feeling joy because we haven't actually let ourselves feel the other emotions. There's a mentor of mine, this quote is so powerful, but he says, joy is the matriarch of all emotions. And she won't visit you unless all of her children have been welcomed.
Whew, chills.
I know, same.
That's
I like chills. Like,
really good.
You won't be able to experience joy if you haven't let yourself process a lot of the other emotions. And almost every emotion felt all the way through, there's joy on the other side of it.
Yeah. Oh, everything you just said, I love. And this to me is the core of what healing really is.
Yeah.
And I talk about this on the podcast all the time. And the thing is, and going back to your experiential learning, it's like we can talk about this on the podcast and talk at you, but it's a completely different thing when you actually feel it and feel it for yourself and what that actually looks like and feels like. And what I'm hearing you say, and it's very mirrored to what it is that I teach in my program Expand, which is like taking people on an arc, and breathwork, and your breathwork, somatic breathwork is a part of it. And it's so beautifully mirrored in what you do in a session. And essentially, like what I'm hearing is, we talked a little bit before the episode started about internal family systems, which is what I talk about a lot. And what my listeners know about, because I'm constantly sharing with them. But in internal family systems, there's the big S self, which is when we're in connection with our truth, which is love, which is our soul. You can call it your higher self. You can call it, spirit, source, the divine. To me, they're all the same thing.
Yeah.
And when we aren't connected in with our big S self, it's because we have protector parts, right? The person that becomes passive aggressive because they haven't felt the impermissible feelings of the child that felt shame, right? So that exiled part that's like the little kid on the playground, or the kid who wanted their parent to just pay attention to me and made it mean something about themselves, right? A protector part comes online, and that protector part, there's many of them. We all have many of them. And I'm curious your take on this, which is why I'm sharing, but the protector part comes in and says, I'm going to be passive aggressive and I'm angry, or I'm going to start procrastinating and not let you actually go for your dreams. I'm going to become a perfectionist or a control freak, right? And all of these different protector parts collude. And until we actually feel what's underneath them, feel the shame, feel the guilt, feel the fear, feel the doubt, feel the anger, right? And what I see breathwork being is it is a psychosomatic portal where you don't have to remember the very first time that something happened to you, which that was a big thing for me. When I came to you guys, I was like, I don't have memories because I had so much trauma. And I know people, really relate to that here. It's like, I don't remember a lot of my childhood because of what happened. And instead, breath work was really a portal for me to unlock it through the body. And then I'd have memories of the child that felt these impermissible feelings. And once I felt them, they moved through my body. And then I was connected with the truth of my soul, which is, I call the big S self. And then the clarity comes.
Yeah, who you spoke to it so well. And a lot of the times we don't have the memory or the vision of it because we're a bottom-up being. This is why I love somatics, is it works with the evolution of how we have become, like evolutionary biology. Like we are animals first. We have like whatever your chronological age is, like I'm 33 right now, but I'm not actually 33. Like you are too. We're fucking ancient.
Right.
Like your nervous system came out of your mom and came out of her mom and her mom and so on. And so there are biological processes in you that you didn't have to learn that are just innate inside of you. And those are animalistic, like fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Those sorts of things are embedded in you for your own safety. And those are the things that happen first. Those are the bottom of it. Then, we can get into emotions, which, they say those instincts that I just named, those are instinctual responses that happen first. If someone breaks into your house, you're not going to be thinking. You're going to have a response quickly because it's going to keep you safe. It's for your own individual survival, which is the most important. Then we have social survival. Social survival is our emotions. Emotions are like the fascia of humanity. They're the connective tissue that pull us together, right? They create relationships, and they push relationships apart, and they create babies, and they create peace, and they also create war. They're the push-pull of our humanity. They're our social evolution. And now we have this neocortex, our mind, that is this incredible storyteller, which is the most powerful thing on the planet. But it most of the time will mirror the felt sensation in our body because we're bottom-up beings first. And so a lot of the times we have to work with the body first to have clarity of the mind. Modalities that are ancient, such as like yoga, understand this. It's like if I can the body is an antenna. Your nervous system is an antenna. And if I can work with the antenna, then the mind, which is what the antenna is picking up on, is going to mirror. Like if I am in a contracted state of shame and guilt and fear, well, then I'm going to be picking up on contracted ideas. And so to actually expand what's possible of your mind, we have to first feel safe, and part of that is reclaiming all of the parts of ourself, which, in my perspective and in multiple perspectives, like healing, and this word healing, it's airy, right? It's something that we're already doing. Your body already knows how to do it. We're doing it all the time. It's nothing that you need to try for. But what is healing? Healing is integration. It's all of the parts of yourself back together. Healing is connection. It's weaving the web of yourself back together so that we can then weave the web of our family back together, our community back together. And so it's an integration of all of the parts of yourself. And through breath work, which is one part of it, and there's, it pairs well with something like IFS, which continues the weaving of the all of those little parts of yourself back to the congruent version of yourself, the truth. But a part of that is completing the physical actions that you needed to do. Maybe you needed to shake. Maybe you needed to run. Maybe you needed to, yell like "fuck you" at the top of your lungs. Like
which I have done in your breathwork session.
It's completion. It's completing the loop that we talked about. That 90-second loop of emotions. People are so afraid to go into it because they're like, if I go into sadness, it's going to be forever.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, if you let yourself feel fully, like you watch a child, that they're so connected to the intelligence of their body, they let it move through them, and most of the time they're like, once they've completed it, they're like, I'm gonna take a nap now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and animals too. I think
animals as well.
Did you show us like a polar bear or something?
Yeah, for anybody that wants to see this and is feeling like they're going through this, it might be beneficial. You can look up on YouTube like polar bear trauma, and there's a video there where they're showcasing a polar bear that's going through something very stressful. Being chased by a helicopter and it's being tranquilized. Once it starts to come back up, the first thing it starts doing is taking these deep belly breaths. And then it starts kind of shaking uncontrollably, but they show in slow motion that he's actually running. He's completing the necessary action that he needed to do, which was to get the fuck out of there, right? And it's not like he's thinking about it.
Yeah.
They're so connected to their innate intelligence, and they haven't been brought up in a culture that's so mentally dominant that like disconnects us from our body, that it's just something like everything that we're talking about is something that your body and your being already knows how to do. We just need to remember, which remembering is putting all of the pieces back together, that integration, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And this was such a missing link for me. I swear, I think my testimonials on y'all's website because
it's so good.
And it just came so fully from my heart because I had spent years doing so much mindset work and limiting belief work and even hypnosis and hypnotherapy. I tried EMDR, which I know you mentioned. Like I did all the things. I tried ketamine therapy, and nothing clicked for me more than understanding, I've been trying to heal through my mind.
Yeah.
When so much of this was through my body. And that's why I'm such a stand for this, because I know people listening feel the same way.
Yeah. And once you integrate that other aspect of it, the mindset work becomes so powerful and it's so necessary.
Exactly.
But you can't continue to do that. You can rewrite the story in your head so much, but that doesn't mean that your body still doesn't feel like it's in the presence of a tiger.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I heard you mention, and I'm just so curious your thoughts about how our nervous system is ancient and how we're coded from our mother's nervous system and her mother and her mother. And so to me, what that tells me is that doing this work is also healing your lineage. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, it is. I look at like my life is just not just my life. It's a line. It takes like what happens when your parents get together. Basically what's happening is they are taking the DNA from your mom and your dad, right? Which is all of the patterns that they've developed that are, positive patterns, that they've overcome certain things, and all of the shit that they never figured out during their lifetime. And they're coming together and they're creating and they're giving you this gift. They're saying, here, take this, take all of the stuff that we've completed and we've done, and take all of the stuff that we didn't get to in our life. And now here, you take this and make it better and pass it down the line. And so when we're doing this work, and part of it's not just like that would be considered nature, right? It's your default state of what was given to you from your parents, and then also through your life you go through experiences, right? That's nature and nurture. But when we're given this gift, like we're not just doing the work for our children, but we're also healing the ancestral lineage as well. And I mean, we could go deeper down that route if you want to.
Yeah, I'm just always so curious because people come and they ask me a lot about healing your lineage or healing past lives. I mean, they go into like a lot of my listeners love all that stuff and they love the woo. And yeah, I was just curious your thoughts on that. And I also, something I did want to ask you though, because I'm so big about blending science and spirituality on this show, is I've heard you say before that the chakra system, which people think is really woo, is actually the nervous system. And I'd love to hear you speak on that too, and how that can clear through breathwork.
Yeah. And this is, we spoke about it earlier, but my job has been to be a bridge builder and to try to explain this in a multitude of ways. And I was studying the Western side of things that's very mechanical, and then the Eastern side of things, which is very energetic. And it comes down to, your nervous system is your chakra system. You have nerve bundles, or they're considered nerve ganglia, at all of those different, the main 7 centers of your being, which is just, they're the electrical centers, and they control all of the glandular function and the musculoskeletal function on all of those different electrical lines. And so I look at it as we are electrical beings. And studying polarity therapy was one of my favorite things, because you're essentially you're a battery. You have a positive pole and a negative pole, and you have a pulsation of cerebral spinal fluid that goes up and down your spine, which is I would consider it like your cosmic breath in a way. It's like your heartbeat in a way. And your nervous system is not just in those ganglia or those chakra systems, but it's actually the way in which your internal communication system is going on. Like, people ask me, what's the main thing? What's the main function of your nervous system? And a lot of people will say it's to keep you safe. And that's one function, and it's it keeps you safe, but how does it do that? It does that through communication. And not just the internal communication, that internal web or that internal electricity, like you have a thought and then you want to contract your bicep, but it's you having to send the signal, and it does that through your nervous system. But it's not just doing that, it's doing that outside of your body too. Some people would call that your aura, right? It's your electrical bubble around you. Like, you have an electrical bubble and I have an electrical bubble. You have your aura, I have mine. It's your electromagnetic field or whatever. And when we come together, we are communicating beyond words. There's so many things that are being communicated beyond just, how we're talking. There's a negotiation of our energy that's happening. Right. And that negotiation could send us deeper into co-regulation, which means that we're not just seeing each other and hearing each other, because this is an interesting one. Most people want to be seen and heard, right? We use that term a lot, but that's not really what we want. We don't want to just be seen and heard, because I could look at you, I could see you, and I could hear what you're saying, and that still doesn't mean that I understand you. What's the understanding is that I want to know that you're feeling me. Yeah. And you want to know that I'm feeling you. There's this, I'm feeling you feeling me. Meaning that I want to know that you're feeling what I'm feeling, and you're able to host me, and that I'm able to host you. And when we're able to do that, which creates a lot of space inside of us, we have had to move through and create this internal space to be able to host each other. And that's how connection happens. And we're either co-regulating with each other, meaning that we're bringing each other into a deeper state of resonance and attunement with each other, or we're co-dysregulating, meaning that a lot of people actually find connection more on their stressors. Like,
Yeah.
like, did you see what happened on the news the other day? Oh yeah, I saw what happened on the news the other day. Oh my God, it's so terrible. Yeah, the world's not safe, right? A lot of us find connection through our stressors, or if, someone's really stressed out, they want to pull other people into that stress state.
Why do you think that is?
Because there's a deeper desire of connection, and it's it. I mean, this is kind of a deep one, but there's like an addiction to chaos.
Yeah.
In a way, there's an addiction to stress, and there's like the chemistry aspect of that, and that can deal with a lot of unprocessed trauma and our, like, what we think we're desiring. I mean, a lot of people might experience this in relationship where it's like, you might have this pattern that you're continuing because you haven't completed it, where you're continually calling in people that are giving you this shot of dopamine and cortisol and adrenaline because they're not safe, but you're actually equating that to love. And so it's this process of your organism is going to continue to call in certain people, not because they're your lover, but because your being is asking you to complete whatever you needed to do. So that's an example of it. But yeah, I think on the deep level, it's because we're desiring connection and completion, and we haven't actually listened to the truth of what our body is actually needing, because we're not connected to it.
Right. And how can we hear it?
Yeah.
When there's so much muck and muddiness that's in the way. Yeah, it's such a good point. I mean, honestly, everything in my life has changed from doing the somatic work, because my relationships have changed, the way I approach my business has changed. And I think a lot of it has come down to briefly interrupting this episode for a very special announcement. If you are someone that has been loving this podcast, that you love this work, you really are ready to deepen in your own feminine embodiment journey, you are ready to expand your capacity to receive abundance and what you desire in your life, and you want to do it all in sisterhood, and you want to travel out of the country. Drum roll, please. I invite you to join us in Costa Rica in May of 2025. We have officially opened the doors for our Costa Rican Expanded Woman Retreat, where we are going to spend 5 days and 5 nights together in the jungle of Costa Rica and just go really deep together in sisterhood. So if you have desired to attend one of the It's Fucking Spiritual retreats and you want to join us in Costa Rica, it is going to be such an incredible time. There's going to be organic food. There's going to be deep workshops and so much bonding and sisterhood and beach bonfires and excursions and all of the things. And honestly, you guys, every single time that I have taken the leap and gone to something in person, my first ever retreat as an attendee was in Costa Rica. And that is where this podcast idea was actually born. And so every single time that I have chosen to take the leap and I've gone somewhere in person alone and nervous and ready for my expansion, there is so much transformation on the other side. It is honestly how I have built my life, has been from taking multiple days to go really deep, to receive reflections in sisterhood, and to really claim what I want out of life. And I invite you to do that with us if it's something that's calling you. This is by application only. So definitely go and fill out the application in the show notes. There's going to be so much information about the retreat, the dates, pricing, all of that in that application, and go and take a look. And if it's calling you, definitely apply. Even if you're on the fence, definitely apply, and we will review your application. And if you have any questions, you can email us at support@rachelgibler.com, and we hope that we will get the chance to meet you in Costa Rica in May. I'll say for me personally, like, I totally was addicted to chaos for so much of my life.
Still am in a lot of ways. I'm on the journey with you all.
Same, 100%. And I will say I've seen such a massive shift from being able to be connected into these tools and be able to identify when I'm in a pattern of still trying to create chaos or having such a safe relationship now. I notice even when my body wants to go into like finding something wrong, you know? And I think, for somebody that wants to like maybe they're listening to this podcast because they are someone who is a seeker, like,
Yeah.
and who wants to heal and who wants to grow and feels more potentiality for their life. And so speaking to someone that is now seeing like, oh, maybe I have been addicted to chaos. Maybe I have had these traumas and these patterns, and I'm waking up to the fact that they're affecting me. What would you say to those people?
Yeah. It depends how feisty I'm feeling that day.
Bring it all.
Yeah. What are you avoiding feeling? Because one of my mentors calls it like the golden algorithm, where it's like we're all, and a lot of us are probably avoiding more than one, but there's probably one emotion that you're avoiding, one like main emotion that you're avoiding. And because you're avoiding it, you're creating more scenarios for it to happen in your life. I'll give you an example. Like and when you're caught in this cycle, it's a vicious cycle. Like for me, the emotion that I avoid is anger. I don't want to feel anger, but anger has a lot to do with your boundaries. There's a lot to do with what's my yes and what's my no. If someone crosses my boundary, then I'm going to get angry about it. And it's not that I need to lash out in anger, but I need to be informed by that anger to like make a clear decision that I'm actually not okay with this. And so I have a hard time with boundaries sometimes. And when I avoid feeling anger, then I'm going to create more situations where I'm not setting my boundaries. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to get more angry.
Yeah.
And so we get caught. So I probably would ask him, like, first off, what emotion do you avoid? Which one? Maybe we can start there and really dive into that. And, another reason that's important for people to understand too is like, why do you want to heal? Like, why?
Yeah.
And for me, I ask myself that question all the time. And it's because we live in a hyper individualized world that this is hard for people, because a lot of us, and maybe whoever's listening to this resonates with this, but I got caught up for a long time in like, what's my purpose?
Yeah.
What do I do? Who am I in the world? Right. And why, what am I healing for? And it's most of the time I think about what's going to matter on my deathbed. And that's like, what are the connections that I made, and who are the people's lives that I affected? And like, how deep were my connections in my life? If you are struggling with shallow connections, or you don't feel like people are seeing and hearing you, or you don't feel like you're craving connection, everything to me boils back down to connection. It's connection to all of our parts inside of us. It's connection to the people around us. We crave deep connection. And so that's a big thing to understand, is that why am I working on regulating my own nervous system is because so I can co-regulate with other people.
Yeah.
So I can be that mountain for them, that when they're stressed, they can come be with me, and I don't even need to say anything, but just their aura being in the presence of my aura, their being starts to relax and remember that everything's okay.
Yeah. I love that. And how do we become more connected?
Yeah. How do we become more connected? Yeah, there's layers to it. I always like to take the bottom up approach to first starting to connect to your body. Like there's one practice that I can really take people into that's like the foundation of everything, and that's the somatic awareness practice. And then we can get into curiosity too, because I feel like the principle of curiosity is actually one of the most important things that I've really been sitting with. But the somatic awareness practice is, and maybe I'll guide you through it.
Okay,
if you want to do
let's
that.
do it.
Just like,
I'm in.
We'll just do a short practice. So part of this practice is going to be learning to compartmentalize the felt sensations in your body, your emotions, and the story in your head. Because we do this all the time, but I ask you, like, how are you feeling? Maybe just answer that. How are you feeling?
In this moment?
Yeah, how are you feeling?
I feel joyful and hungry.
Joyful and hungry,
I'm intermittent fasting, and I haven't eaten since 6 p.m. yesterday.
Wow, okay.
So that's present for me physically.
Yeah, joyful. So you resource that from two different places.
Totally.
Right? You resource that from the emotion is joy, and then the physical sensation is my body is hungry. So that's beautiful. Like you when we ask someone how they're feeling, a lot of the time people will say like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed because everyone fucking needs something from me right now.
Yeah.
Like,
And they go into story.
They go into story.
Yeah.
So we first need to like be able to compartmentalize them to know which things are coming from where, because most of us are just living in the story in our head, and then it's running rampant, and like it's terrorizing our whole life.
Yeah.
Because the story is just a story. So this is a quick practice that you can start to implement in your day, and you are what you repeatedly do. So I would try to do this more times than not. But first, let's just have you tune into just your physical body. And you already did it quickly because you're a resource, but the sensations in your body, and the prompt for this is, I'm noticing. Like, what sensations, no emotion, no story, just sensations in your body. And you already said like hunger is a sensation.
Yeah, I'm noticing the hunger in my stomach. I'm noticing some like warmth and like tingling in my chest.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I notice some spaciousness around like my heart and my solar plexus area. And I'm noticing an overall like warmth and buzzing just throughout my body.
Wow. Yeah. A lot of awareness of your physical body. It's beautiful. Now let's maybe move just a little bit deeper into like your emotional body. And for a lot of people, this is like the hardest one because we're quite disconnected from it. But yeah, is there any like emotional movement that's, moving through you? And we're always feeling an emotion, and a lot of us we're numb to it in certain ways. But you already said like joyful. Is there any other emotions that are there?
Yeah, I'm feeling deep gratitude in this moment, and connection and purposeful.
Yeah.
Let me see what else is there.
Yeah, and if there's not more, then that's okay.
I think that's the forefront.
Yeah.
And then there's like
I suppose it's secondary layer.
Oh, there's a
too, yeah.
low hum underneath
Yeah.
of slight overwhelm.
Yeah.
Which I could go into
Yeah,
story, but
We'll go there next. We'll go there next.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of overwhelm that's underneath
Yeah.
that.
Okay, beautiful. So you just said what you're noticing in the physical body, then you went, a layer up or a layer deeper into emotion, and now it's like, are there any stories that are kind of looping in the mind? And you'll know that they're stories because they're oftentimes like that inner critic that's just kind of looping in the back.
I sense
and I'll say that like using the sentence stem, like the story that's playing in my head right now is.
Thank you. The story that's playing in my head right now is like, I am so grateful that I get to do this work and that I get to share it, and it feels so purposeful, and I feel connected with you, Steven, and just like in such deep awe and gratitude that like people are tuning into this, like thousands of people every day are like tuning in, and sometimes I'm like, whoa, that is so cool. And then I can even notice like some judgment of myself in.
What's the story? The story is like, if you could just put it in the words of how it's set. Like,
so the story is like, it's kind of a question coming in the form of a question, but it's like, am I making this about myself? Like about my purpose and everything? And like, there's the judgment in the story of like, I shouldn't be making it about myself. And then there's also the overwhelm. The story that I'm creating is, I have so much to do and so much that I'm juggling, and like I'm afraid I won't have time to do it, and I also have a story that if this is so purposeful to me, like, why am I not sprinting faster to do even more, to reach even more people? And it's like all in there.
Yeah. The story of urgency, not doing enough.
Exactly.
That whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. And those are probably supporting you in a lot of ways, but this, and then there's more to there, like, okay, now just kind of check in now that you've kind of noticed the body, all the sensations, you've noticed like the emotions that are there, you're kind of aware of the stories that are going on, like briefly seeing maybe how they're connected in a certain way. And if they're not, then that's okay. You can kind of just let it go. But from that place, like, what is it that you are needing? Now that you've just like, I call it the inner committee. A lot of the times we think we know what we want, but it's coming from the story. We oftentimes haven't actually checked into the body as well. So, and this is a deeper one, like needs and expressing needs. A lot of people have a lot of issues around that. But even just practicing, stating out loud, like, this is what I'm needing right now, based on what you just checked in on. Maybe it's a small need or big need.
Yeah. I think what came through right when you first asked the question is, I'm needing in this moment just to stay connected to my breath and to presence, to create spaciousness, to slow down and just be here now.
Yeah.
And so that's the main one. And the secondary need that I need from myself is self-acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Because story is I can be very hard on myself.
Yeah.
And that tends to be my default. So just like allowing that self to come forward, of just like acknowledging like that I can appreciate myself now, and giving that to myself, and just like getting to be here.
Yeah.
And have this be enough.
Yeah. Well, let's just like, to seal that in, let's just take a breath into that. Beautiful. Yeah. And that practice, that somatic awareness practice, it requires, like, it's easier the more you do it and the more resourced you are. And if you've been doing this work a long time, it's easier. But for those of you that want to try this at home, like, be aware that it might be a little frustrating. You might not know what you're feeling. And that's where like somatic breathwork or some of the other stuff can really help, like, come in with a little bit of like a sledgehammer to like kind of like cut through a lot of the like real stagnant stuff that's been there for a while. And so that you can, moment to moment, you don't need to do like a massive breathwork session, but you can continue to do that practice. Like, I would say for people, like, practice this in the morning, and it doesn't have to be like fast, like, or it doesn't have to be like a long drawn out thing, but it can be quick. Like, what am I noticing in my body?
Yeah.
What am I feeling right now? What's the story that's playing in my head? And that's the framework that I take into like coaching and all of the other stuff, is to help people. Gabor Mate says, like, the first step in healing trauma is to reconnect the overwhelm of the mind back to the intelligence of the body.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and thank you so much for gifting me that in this moment. I felt all of my energy just and like come back into the present moment in my body and my system. And that was really beautiful. So thank you. Yeah, that's huge. And for anybody that does try that at home, something that I do notice, especially at the beginning, is like going into story a lot and trying to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
And so notice where you're trying to figure it out, or if judgment comes in and then you think you're getting it wrong, and people tend to have that. And so what I would say is, and just from doing this work myself, is like, just be present with what is in the moment without trying to like search and reach. Yeah.
It I've heard it spoken to as it's almost like a journal entry in time. Meaning that you could look at it as like, if you're journaling, like, you're not going to lie to yourself. You're not going to lie in your journal. Like, what does that, I mean, hopefully you don't, but like, what does that, It's just an honest representation of where you're at right now. But that doesn't mean you're going to be there later on.
Yeah.
It requires that self-vulnerability and self-honesty. Like, this is where I'm at right now, and that's okay. Like, a lot of us and you'll notice if the mind comes in, if it's like, if you're sad, like for me, I'll know my mind's coming in if I'm like sad and tears are starting to come out. If my mind starts to be like, okay, why are you sad? You know, like, why are you sad? Then the mind will come in and it'll stop that 90-second process of like letting the sadness move through me.
Yeah.
And then it'll just like, it'll elongate the process.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's such a good point. It's like, oh, I'm feeling this because, and you'll notice you go into story, or when a really good telling sign is if someone says, how do you feel? And you say, I'm feeling like, after like is always a story, not an emotion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm feeling like he shouldn't have, you're immediately in a story. So it's
and this, like, as far as relationships go, like not just romantic, but all of them, if the more that you can do this, the more that you can say like, this is what I'm noticing and I'm feeling. And the story in my head is this, versus you made me feel this way and you always need this from me. And like, because if you start, like, notice the way that you're speaking to other people, if you're like claiming what is going on inside of you. Yeah. Because then you're just going to get hit with defensiveness. And then and a lot of times it's my story versus your story. And this is what happened. And then you're going to say because the story is subjective. Yeah. Like, what's my truth of what happened is probably different than what your truth of what happened. And we're just going to battle stories until the end of time. And it's just going to wreak havoc on our systems.
And it lacks vulnerability.
Yeah.
It completely lacks vulnerability when you're not actually allowing yourself to reveal how something made you feel. Not blaming you made me feel, but owning your emotions and your feelings. And revealing them is so huge in relationships. And it's so coupled with, we just had Stefanos on the show. Yeah. And we went through this, but through the lens of communication in relationships. Yeah. And it's just so beautiful because this work weaves throughout any area that you desire to change your life, whether that's you want to have a more connected relationship and learn how to communicate, or you want to be more connected in with your creativity and what you're meant to birth in the world, or your purpose, right? Yeah. Or you want to be more connected in with your body. It's like every single area that people think is different. Like, I got to learn about relationships. I have to learn about how to communicate. I have to learn about, like business and how to, it's the foundation is this. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's why I think it's the most important work ever. So
they're all interwoven, and something that I got to talk about this somatic awareness, but even before that, it requires a level of curiosity.
Oh yeah, you mentioned
that. And curiosity has been something that I've been really diving into because I think I've naturally kind of been just a very curious individual. Like I said, why do you want to heal, right? And even with somatic breathwork, I think that it was created because I continuously ask myself, what am I doing? And like, what is most effective, right? Why am I doing the thing that I want to do? And so it requires a level of curiosity from yourself. And something that's fascinating is curiosity is not just a mental state. It's actually a physiological state of being. And it's like there's multiple research out there that you actually cannot be in a state of curiosity and in a state of stress at the same time.
Wow.
You can't be in a state of trauma response. You can't be in a defensive state and also a state of curiosity. Meaning that if I'm in an argument with you, it's going to be my story versus your story. And I've lost all curiosity. I mean, like, I wonder how she's feeling right now. Yeah. I wonder what's going on inside of her.
That's such a good point.
And physiologically, like when you shift to curiosity, because most of us, and notice this in your life, like if you're connecting with somebody and maybe you're curious to get to know them, but you might only be curious about them if it's, if it is helpful for you, right? Yeah. Like a lot of times we're curious, but only if it's supporting us. Like if you actually are curious about yourself or about the world or about another person, what you're saying is like, I'm welcoming all of you. Like show me. Yeah. Like show me. If you're curious about yourself and your own body, what you're saying is like, no, don't like, let's not mask and push all the other things down. Then I'm only curious about what the thing is that I want to do, right? No, actually tell me what's there. Yeah. Like I'm open to all of it. And there's some powerful exercises that I've been working on and doing with people, from like taking people from that state of stress, trauma, defensiveness, and helping them repattern curiosity. Because the sooner someone can get into curiosity, the quicker those defense systems will shut off.
Oh, so good.
And it's actually what's happening in the breathwork session, because I'm guiding you. And we talked about in that first half where I'm spiking your nervous system and I'm mimicking a state of stress, but I'm also asking you questions. Like, how do you want to show up in the world?
Yeah.
And so you're getting curious, like what armor are you carrying in your body, right? And so we're taking you from that stress state, which is allowing you to complete whatever necessary actions you needed to do and emotions and stuff, and shifting you into curiosity first about what wants to move through, and then how do I want to feel afterwards as well.
Wow. That's so powerful. I'm going to totally take that and marinate on it for a while. So thank you. So tell us a little bit about the program for anybody that's listening that maybe is curious of becoming a breathwork practitioner themselves, and who is that for? Is it just for coaches, or I know it reaches a wide range of people? Yeah.
One of the key distinctions I want to make is that, it is somatic breathwork, and there's a lot of types of breathwork out there, and we're not like for someone who's looking to be like a performance breath coach. Like, we are a somatic practitioner that is utilizing breath. We're utilizing verbal communication. We're utilizing hands-on touch techniques. And so breath is the tool and it's the driving force, but really what you're learning to be is a somatic-based practitioner. And so it's for anybody that, we have a lot of people that have therapists and doctors that have PhDs that are utilizing this, with their clients. And we, have real estate agents that are taking people through breathwork sessions to help them to get clear on what they want to do, or what house they want to buy.
Whoa, that's wild.
It's crazy. Yeah. We have
cool.
So many different people. My favorite thing is to have moms or dads that want to come in just to understand this deeper for themselves.
Yeah.
That want to utilize a lot of this for their children. And that's my personal favorite. So really, we have a lot of people that are taking this that immediately know how they want to utilize it, and other people that just want to do it for themselves and go through this process. And I'm a big proponent of a lot of the work that we do is through co-regulation of our nervous systems, and the most impact that you're going to have is doing the work for yourself, because nobody heals another person. It reminds me of this quote, I think it's Gandhi, that's be the change, right? And it's cliche, but it's we're not trying to fix anybody else. We're working on our own system to be as regulated as possible, to be as congruent as possible, to be that capital S self, so that when we're working with somebody, they feel that from our nervous system, not by the things that we're saying or the techniques that we're using, but from all the things that are being communicated beyond words. That's where the real magic happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you touched on that. And what I was so moved by in our training was that over half of the people actually weren't doing it for their practice or for being a coach. They were doing it because they were a mom. They were doing it because they wanted to understand this work for themselves, because they, wanted to heal on their own. There were so many people that said, I'm just doing this for me. And I can't recommend it enough to anybody, whether you are a coach, listening to this, or so many of you aren't. So many of you, wherever you are in your journey, and whether you use this professionally or not, I just think it's so powerful to not only have the understanding and the knowledge, but to actually have a felt sense of it and experience it yourself, and then go out in the world and use it however you're meant to. But
I like to I also like to call it's almost like, if I were to rename it, I don't know if I would do this for marketing purposes, but we've had it called How to Human 101.
That's so good.
It's going to give you the baseline understanding of how to human.
Didn't you put that in your Instagram bio, or teaching humans to human better or something
humans
like that?
Helping humans human better or something.
That's so good, because that's what it is. It's the core.
That's what it is.
It's beautiful.
We're teaching people how to connect, and we have the core of our work is developing what I like to call meta skills, which are those deeper skills that are not just teaching someone like how to run a session, but it's how to like really notice what's going on inside of another person, so I can support them.
Yeah. Oh, so beautiful. And just for anybody listening to this, I'd love to give them a little bit more context. For those of you who are interested in the practitioner training, we have all the info in the show notes below, and you even get a percentage off through my code, or actually through my link. So you got to make sure that you click the link in the show notes. But you guys it's an in-person. I did the in-person for 4 days and an online.
We have an in-person training and an online. They're all the same curriculum. It's just depends on, how you want to do it. We have a lot of people that end up doing both. The online, is nice because you can, it still is very experiential, but it's a slower digestion process. You can get all of, everything that you're going to learn in person. And a lot of times people are like, cool, I want to solidify this and come in person and have like the intensive where we're here together.
Yeah.
So either one, they're both powerful. I would definitely use her link because you'll get quite a discount there.
You will. They hook it up for sure.
Yeah.
I did the in-person and I can't recommend that enough. I love being with other people, but if you can't make it in person, and online is just as amazing. And this information is so incredible and will be such a foundation for you in all areas of your life. It has been the best training I've ever done. So you guys are epic. And anything else? I know you guys are developing some more things that they might be interested in.
Yeah, we're working on, and we've ran it twice now. We have our connection course as well too. It's a somatic relating. So if you, and we'll see, we're actually kind of building it into the practitioner training as well. So if you sign up for the practitioner training, you're going to get that as well. We're deciding whether or not we're going to continue that as a standalone. We'll see. But that's been the thing that I've been having a ton of fun with. So click the link and you'll probably find out whether or not we're still doing that or not, or if it's part of the practitioner training, because it is a lot of the stuff that you already learn in practitioner training. We're just expanding upon it. So
Great. Yeah, it's really powerful. And you guys have a business one too, or are you still doing
that? We do, yeah.
Okay.
We have, afterwards, after you finish the practitioner training, which is helping you like really get good at the skill set, then it's a whole other thing. But how do I curate this? Because there's a multitude of ways to utilize this, whether you want to do online Zoom sessions and be able to work with people anywhere in the world, or whether you want to host like big group sessions at retreats and events and, corporate wellness, or whether you want to add this to your coaching practice. Like those are just to name some of them, but we'll work with you to customize and to help you figure out the route in which you want to offer it.
Beautiful. Yeah, so many incredible resources, and as I've said on this entire podcast, I can't recommend it enough. And the way you guys hold the space and the information that you give and the way it's so digestible, it's the best. So you guys definitely go click the link if this is anything that you'd be interested in and you feel called and this really spoke to you in some way. I highly recommend going to check it out. And Steven, thank you so much for being here. And I guess we will wrap today. I want to ask you one last question of what is your hope for humanity through doing this work?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. A couple months ago, I was like sitting in meditation and, I'm not necessarily a visual person. I'm definitely a feeler. I'm in my feels.
Same.
But I had a pretty clear like vision come to me, and that was, we're building the internet. That's what we're doing. And, I think that it's so beautiful. You're probably listening to this as a byproduct of the internet nowadays. That is the thing that's connecting all of us. But that's mirrored from the internet that's already there. The human internet, the web that we're all weaving together. And we're restoring that internet, not just inside of yourself. We talked about nervous system, chakra system. I would call it the internal network, the internet, right?
Yeah.
And so we're restoring that internet through breath work, parts work, through all these different modalities of weaving ourselves back together. And then we get to help others do the same. And through that, we're helping restore the internet that's out there. And a big frame for me that's helped is, I think there's a lot of people out there that are focusing on healing. And I want to give you an invitation to, when you're focused on healing, or you think you're in your healing journey, a lot of the times we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And if you're focused on healing, then you're a lot of the times creating the opposing force that's kind of saying that there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with you. Your body already knows how to heal. You're doing it all the time. And so what's been helpful for me is, instead of focusing on healing, focus on connection. Connection, healing is actually a side effect of connection. Healing happens like in the environment of connection, whether it's connecting deeper to your body, and you do that practice I just led you through, where you're connecting to your sensations, emotions, and the stories that are going on in your head, or whether you're focused on connecting deeper to the people around you. That's where healing happens.
Yeah.
Focus on connection.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you for being on the show today. This was
Yeah.
such a fun episode to get to film with you. And where can everyone find you?
Yeah, you can check us out at somaticbreathwork.com. You can check us out on YouTube, social media, like basically anywhere, social media. If you want to connect with me, Steven Jaggers, Instagram probably the most, at Jaggers, JR.
Amazing.
You can tell I love to nerd out on this stuff. So
Great.
would love to
Cool. Well,
connect.
we will put it in the show notes, and you guys make sure to check out the training if it calls you, and message me, message Steven. Let us know what you got out of this episode. I love hearing from you guys, and please share this with a friend who you think would benefit from hearing it. So with that, I love y'all, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to the It's Fucking Spiritual podcast. I am so glad that you're here. And if this episode resonated with you, I invite you to share this with a friend that you feel needs to hear it. And if you are really feeling the love and support for this show, this podcast thrives off of your listens and your reviews. So I would love if you could leave us an honest review. We would love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, your questions. And it helps us get this podcast in the hands of more people, and would mean so much to me to receive your support. So thank you.